Today was the cotton harvest season, here in the rising diamond pack. It was a fruitful year again because we got to harvest more cotton this year. Cotton was one of the main agricultural products of the Sawinski Kingdom. We sold and distributed them to the cotton fabric manufacturers here from our local area. Sometimes we were exporting them to the 3 different kingdoms called Astasia, Iglaria Kingdom, Yuanzhang Kingdom, and Wavelon Kingdom. I giggled as soon as I saw Desmond joining with the fellow men. He had a huge frown on his face, seeing that he really didn't like harvesting cotton because it annoyed him when some of the strands of the cotton stuck to his clothes. It seems you are enjoying harvesting, Cinnamon. I mind-linked him while chuckling. Desmond looked for me in the crowds and spotted me. He playfully rolled his eyes. I cannot believe I have to do this every year just to impress our pack members. He mind-linked back. Come. I'll wipe your forehead, Cinnamon. I waved my handkerchief. Desmond's face brightened up. He didn't hesitate to leave even though all of our men, who are not pack warriors, were still working in the fields. The women who were with me were teasing me when their alpha was coming in my direction. I only chuckled and met him. He sighed in exasperation. Do I really have to do this? He asked, as I wiped the beads of sweat forming on his forehead and neck. I pecked his lips. Of course. You need to show your compassion that you cared for your pack members. His arm instantly snaked around me before he pulled me against him. I only cared about you, Seraphim, he whispered seductively, causing me to inhale sharply and grin. But I know this makes you happy to boast and be proud of me to your fellow women, so I will keep doing this for you, he growled. Immaculately, I licked my lips and chuckled. Ah, Desmond. You are really turning me on, I whispered back. His hand dug to my side. Then, I shall make them watch how I pound you so fast and make you scream my name. Shall we do that? I distanced my face and shot him a glare. There are kids here, he grinned. Is that even a problem? I can tell their parents to take them away and I covered his mouth. No. Calm your horses, Cinnamon. We are in the middle of the harvest festival right now. So, go back and fulfill your duty as a farmer. I gently tapped his cheek, smiling sheepishly. Desmond frowned, but he sighed and smiled before he kissed my lips. All right. Be sure that I have a reward for doing this, he said meaningfully. Of course. I winked. You can do anything you want from me. That was enough of a bargain for this man to play the role of a farmer. TSK. Then shall I tie you up in the bed and make you beg me? I said. Anything, Cinnamon. Spanking? I nodded. Desmond grinned. So anything, huh? Don't forget rough and by force. That is not what you did last night. I frowned, acting like I didn't like it. He squinted his eyes at me. I am being gentle because I don't want. How many times do I have to tell you that I like it rough, and do not pity me? I am not weakling. I drew closer to him. You've gone too soft to me since we married, Desmond. Where is the primal instinct of making me feel trapped in your arms, huh? He growled. Don't insult me, Seraphim, I chuckled. I am not insulting you, Cinnamon. I am just telling you that you can go extreme on me. I will take them and be a good slut for you, I said seductively. Oh, is it? There was a sly smile on his lips. Then you shall receive them later, he whispered to my ear. Thank you for the lewd invitation. Marchioness Beryl Verlis. I shall attend to it later tonight, he whispered darkly. Yes, Marquis Verlis. I am looking forward to it. I bit my lower lip when Desmond gently pinched my chin. I love you, he said before pecking my lips one more time as he stepped back. I love you too. I felt butterflies fluttering in my stomach as my wolf was feeling needy of our mate. Desmond's face brightened up at my response. Then he happily returned to the cotton field. I could already tell that saying I love you to him was making him happy. I could still remember that time when I finally accepted him as my mate and reciprocated my feelings for him. Desmond didn't expect that he wouldn't have to force me by that time. We were too complicated before. I almost refused him because he was too much. What I mean too much is he was too cruel for my own good. He was so obsessive and couldn't control his jealousy. Back then when I was first arriving at this pack, we argued a lot. No one backed down, and we couldn't deny we so wanted each other. I smiled, reminiscing about those crazy memories. I could have wished if the moon goddess meant us to have a pup. I wished to tell our pup that their father was being hilarious. I could already tell that if our pup is a girl, Desmond would be so overprotective with our daughter. Later that night, we had a big celebration all over the pack. It was a festive event that happened every time we got to harvest cotton every year. Every pack was celebrating it, so we were not the only ones who were having to celebrate and harvest this morning. Tomorrow, it would be the continuation of the celebration, and Alpha King Azarius would show himself in the festival. Desmond and I had already planned to go to the capital tomorrow to attend the meeting with the Alpha King Azarius. I was enjoying talking and laughing with my pack members. When I came to spot Desmond, who was speaking with Harvey right now, then I furrowed my eyebrows when Harvey showed Hazel to Desmond. I tried to hear their conversation using my sensitive hearing. But we were surrounded by our pack members in one area, and the crowds were too noisy, so it was hard to hear it. I excused myself as I swam through the sea of crowds and was about to call Desmond because it was bizarre that he didn't get to tell me that he would leave for a moment. My heart sank. As soon as Desmond and Hazel went along with each other, I furrowed my eyebrows as I got to see them going to our manor. "What is happening?" I murmured as I tried to get off from the crowds without being seen by our betas and gammas. I looked at my bracelet and thanked myself that I was wearing it. It would mean so much to me to wear this because this bracelet has an incantation to hide my scent. I was using it because I had plans to make fun with Desmond later. With careful walking, I headed straight to the manor and went inside after seeing Desmond and Hazel go there. I went in the direction where Desmond's study room was located. That was where I could smell his scent. I carefully removed my heel shoes so that they wouldn't make a noise on the marble floor. I walked barefoot while heading to the study room of Desmond. "Why are you choosing me to have this task, Alpha?" I inhaled quietly when I came to hear Hazel's flirty voice. I was already at the door, which wasn't closed enough, so I was able to hear what they were about to talk about. "Because you are fit for this, Hazel, and I don't want to worry my wife anymore." My heart stopped when Desmond mentioned my name. I carefully knelt on the marble floor without making any noise so I could peek in the hole of the doorknob. There, I saw Desmond leaning on his desk while facing Hazel, who was holding a parchment. Hazel hummed as she chuckled. "Oh, I see. Luna does not know about this, am I right, Alpha? You should have brought this topic to her." I furrowed my eyebrows. What on earth were they talking about? What were they referring to me? "I will eventually tell her," Hazel chuckled. "I don't think Luna will approve of it." "Me? You will make me a surrogate mother?" "Luna Serafina doesn't even like me, Alpha." My eyes widened in surprise. "Surrogate mother? What?" I asked Anderson to conduct a test between Serafina and me to see which one of us is having a defective state. He found out that Serafina is infertile. It is the reason why we cannot bear a pup even after being married for 5 years. I stiffened and felt like something exploded in my body right now. Me? Infertile? My heart sank more. So, am I really the problem as to why we haven't conceived a pup? Is that the reason why he was speaking to Hazel? To make her a surrogate mother? Alpha, do not act so naive. Luna will not approve it even if you discuss it. She'd rather not have me to surrogate your pup because she feels threatened about my presence. I clenched my hands when I saw her stepping forward towards Desmond, whose expression was still stoic. Serafina will understand. She has been troubled that until now, we haven't had a pup yet, Hazel. I know that she wants to have a pup already, even if I tell her that I am not worried if we can have one or not, Desmond said, as he crossed his arms over his chest. I gritted my teeth when Hazel was already in front of Desmond and leaned forward to him. I wanted to open the door and smash that flirty expression of her, but I couldn't find myself moving at my ground. When I looked at my hands, I found them shaking. Shit. What I heard tonight was making me shiver right now. I can agree to be the surrogate mother, Alpha. But there is one condition. What is it? For my wife, I will do anything. I immediately returned my gaze back to the hole upon hearing his icy tone yet. There was desperation. When I checked Desmond, whose eyebrows were furrowed while Hazel's grinning face was so close to him, I already knew that I wouldn't like what was going to happen. Spend one night with me, Alpha. That is all for my condition, Hazel said before she descended her lips to Desmond, causing my eyes to widen in shock. Seraphim, are you all right? I snapped back. Huh? I blinked and looked at Desmond, who was tilting his head, looking at me. Are you saying something? He creased his forehead before he sighed. I am asking you if the food is to your liking. You haven't touched it. Isn't appetizing for you. Shall we change to a different restaurant? He asked. There was a concerned expression on his face. I shook my head as I looked down at my food. He was right. I haven't touched it. I don't have an appetite right now, Cinnamon. I forced a smile as I sighed. Is there something wrong? Desmond asked, hesitant as he took my hand. I glanced down at his hand. I secretly gnashed my teeth. I almost smiled bitterly before I put up my real smile. No, Cinnamon. We have been eating a lot for the past 2 days, so I think I am still full. You know what I mean? We had arrived at the capital 2 days ago to attend the meeting with Alpha King Azarius. Since we arrived there, the palace never failed to provide us with some snacks and meals which always made me full. Desmond chuckled. Right. I thought there was something I should worry about. Is there anything you want, T? That will do. I nodded my head, smiling. As soon as we were finished, we walked into the plaza, enjoying the vibrant and spirited night here in the capital. We saw many food stalls as there was a carnival there as well. Desmond and I spent our time there before we returned to the inn where we were staying. Seraphim. I glanced at him when he settled beside me as he hugged me from behind, as soon as we laid down to the bed. What is it? I asked softly and caressed his arm. I wish to discuss something with you once we get home. My eyes widened as I felt my stomach somersaulted. I inhaled and exhaled, blocking all the emotions so Desmond wouldn't feel it. What would you like to discuss? I asked and turned around to plaster a sweet smile. Do you wish us to elope? Desmond chuckled and bit his lower lip. I could tell that he liked what I teased him. Well, do you wish to? He asked as he knew that I was kidding. I hummed softly. Of course, yes. I would like to go to any place as long as I have you, Desmond. He hugged me instantly. Ah, Seraphim. You are making me and my wolf feel skittish right now. I felt him kissing my head. I wouldn't get enough of you, Seraphim. I forced a smile, feeling heartbroken. Me too, Cinnamon. Me too. I said softly. Looks like he was going to tell me about the surrogacy once we get home. It could mean that Hazel accepted it with Desmond. With Desmond accepting the condition Hazel uttered at that moment, my husband, my mate, he betrayed me again. This time, he was not controlled by the aphrodisiac. He did it of his will to spend a night with her. It hurts. This hurts more than I ever caught him. I pretended that everything was all right. I blocked all the emotions I felt so Desmond wouldn't dare to feel what I felt right now, because if he knows that I am troubled right now, he wouldn't leave me alone until I told him. We returned to our pack after we had the last meeting with Alpha King Azarius. I was nervous as soon as we arrived. I tried my best not to appear nervous when I got to see Hazel. I squinted my eyes at her when our eyes met, but I caught her smirking before she glanced at Desmond. I felt my heart clench when I caught Desmond looking at Hazel. I secretly gritted my teeth in annoyance. I also feel useless right now. We will have a meeting at the moment in my study room. Seraphim, Desmond said as soon as we arrived at our chamber. I'll bring some refreshments later then, I stated when he helped me change my gown. Desmond, you shall summon a servant to help me here. I was indicating the part where he was helping me to dress up. He frowned and shook his head. I want to help you. He smiled. What refreshment do you want to drink later, tea? Juice? You. I shivered at his reply, but I smiled sheepishly and turned around to tap his cheek. Naughty. Desmond only grinned. Go now, I shall disturb the meeting later. I winked. His expression softened as he nodded. Please do, Seraphim. He winked back. I kept my smiling face when he left, but I vanished as I changed it into a bitter one. Then I went to the walk-in closet and took the vial that I needed. I also started packing my things by taking a few clothes. I even took some of the jewelry that has high value and some trinkets so I could sell them. I decided that I would leave it here in my pack. I couldn't take staying here knowing that Desmond slept twice with other women. I am not a fool to stay here anymore. Damn him. My wolf was feeling furious and agreed with me. Desmond knew that my wolf and I hated Hazel. Yet he had some discussions with her to make her a surrogate mother. Most especially, it seemed like he agreed to her condition based on the glances they exchanged earlier. It pained me. I settled my things to the nearest room where Desmond's study room was located before I took the vial with me and went to the kitchen area. I told the cooks and other servants that I could handle everything here. They nodded and left me alone. It was a good thing that they wouldn't suspect me of anything. Once I mixed the high-condensed sleeping drought potion to the tea, I inhaled and exhaled to calm myself, hearing my heart breaking slowly as I went to Desmond's study room. I knocked on the door before someone opened it, only to see Desmond with a beaming smile on his face. I brought some refreshments to everyone here, I said with a gentle smile, and showed them the tea I brewed. I felt relief because the 2 Beta, Harvey and Oakley, and the 3 Gammas, Jupiter, Solomon, and Nicholas, were here and gathered around. Greetings, Luna, they said in unison, and bowed their heads before me. I nodded my head and poured them some tea before I sat at the armchair where Desmond was sitting. Has the discussion just started? I asked Desmond, as I was referring to the one he told me that they would discuss the budget of building a new pack house. He held my hand. We are still weighing the cost of it, Seraphim. He kissed the back of my palm, which suddenly pained me. His hand. It was the same hand he used to hold Hazel. Would you mind if I listen here? I asked, as I tightened my hold to his hand, indicating that I was starting to rebel against this marriage. Desmond nodded, smiling. I don't mind. You know that you can barge in whenever you want to come here. I nodded. Then he turned his head to the gentlemen who were here. We also need to discuss what building materials we should use here. Oakley already communicated to the contractor and indicated here the materials we can use for the new pack house. I remained a stoic expression. As soon as their discussion deepened, I waited. I patiently waited until all of them drank the tea I prepared. Then, later on, they collapsed. I held Desmond's body and reclined him to a seat when he fell asleep as well. Then I checked his breathing and made sure that he was really sleeping. I really made sure the vial I mixed was a high condensed one, since all of them had a high tolerance for poison. Especially Desmond. For someone consuming this, it would take 12 hours to have them in a sleep state. For someone who had a poison tolerance, this would only last for 3 hours, to make sure that I wouldn't be able to follow Desmond immediately. I also put a drug that could make someone physically weak, sighing. I kissed Desmond's lips as tears fell from my eyes. Didn't I already tell you that I can forgive? I told you that if this happens again, I will not forgive you anymore, I whispered to his ear. Because today, I, Seraphina Beryl Verlis, reject you as my mate, Desmond Verlis. His body irked as he gritted his teeth while his eyes were closed. Then moments later, his closed eyes were streaming tears. I hissed at the pain as I let the tears fall from my eyes. The moment I twisted the doorknob to leave. Seraphina, I gasped, hearing Desmond's weakened voice. I turned my head as my eyes widened, seeing him standing up, unstabilized. How? I couldn't continue my words when he collapsed and knelt to the floor, having his eyes on me as he was crying. He was supposed to be asleep. Even if I rejected him, he must remain asleep. Where are you going? He reached for me, but he couldn't as he sobbed. Why did you reject me? What did I do? I harshly wiped the tears away from my eyes when I was assured that he wouldn't be able to move from his ground. You should ask yourself, I said before I bit my lower lip when a sob escaped from my lips. Farewell, Desmond. I bid one more time when his eyes finally closed. There is no more second chance for you. I said coldly. Before I decided to take my things, I made sure that when I reached the gates, they wouldn't notice what happened to their alpha, beta, and gamma. I held my head high when I arrived and ordered the pack warriors to open the gates for me. I surmised that they hadn't been alerted yet since I knew that Desmond would fail to mind Link. Our pack warriors guarding the gates. May we ask, where are you going, Luna? One of them asked. Did Alpha allow you to go out? I glared at him coldly, which caused him to stiffen. If Desmond did not allow me to go out, I wouldn't be here, I said in my icy tones. But usually, Alpha is going with you, Luna. He reasoned in a meek tone. I approached him and showed my power as the Luna of this pack. You dare to question your Alpha's decision. The obvious is right in front of you. Are you dumb or what? I retorted. He lowered his head. Pardon me, Luna. We will open the gates for you. Good. Hurry up. I ordered angrily to make them haste to their movement. I needed to get away as soon as possible. I had to make sure that Desmond wouldn't follow my scent already. As I was wearing the bracelet to hide my scent, I glanced at the pack gates one more time before I transformed to my wolf form. Along with me were the essential things I needed to hide from my husband. Farewell. Rising Diamond Pack, Seraphina. Grab me some electric blue taffeta, will you? I nodded my head as I went to the shelves for fabrics where they were arranged by fabric type and by color. Then I took the electric blue taffeta and bestowed the fabric to Nisha, who was busy hand-sewing a new cicada gown, ordered by Lady Helga. I returned to my seat to finish the bonnet matching the ball gown for Lady Helga. Nisia and I were the ones handling this, while my other fellow seamstresses were busy dealing with the new customers from the noble ladies. I took the needle and black laces to sew it to the brim of the blue hat. Are you going to stay late again, Nisia? I asked when I continued sewing. Nisia glanced at me. Probably. It is not as if we have a choice. We didn't even have a break for work, Seraphina. She grinned. I chuckled, huffing. You are right. But I sighed one more time. I do not know what to explain again to Sander if I come home late, and he is waiting for me again. If only Madame Ibanez was considerate of our working hours and paid us with the right amount. She paused when the door swung open, revealing the woman in her 50s, wearing a vivid yellow gown and miniature hat on her head serving as headwear. Speaking of the bitch. I mouthed at Nisia, causing her to grin. We both flinched when Madame Ibanez slammed our working table. Did I even pay the two of you just to chit-chat? We lowered our heads immediately, as we both exchanged meaningful glances. My apologies, Madame Ibanez. I spoke in my sincerest tone. I winced in pain when she grabbed my hair and forced me to look at her. Apologies. Apologies. Do you think that shall be enough to compensate for catching you two chatting at work? Do you want your debts to escalate dramatically, you ungrateful bitch? I bit my lower lip, not wanting to cry as I endured the pain I felt at the roots of my hair. She grabbed my hair like she wanted to take them out. Then, the next thing, Madame Ibanez, suddenly made me feel dizzy. Seraphina. I held my forehead when we all heard the loud thud of my head being hit on the table. I didn't cry when she left me thereafter. I heard Nisa's cry when Madame Ibanez pulled her hair as well. Unlike me, she didn't bang her head on the table. If I ever catch you two again chit-chatting, perhaps 20 lashes with wolfsbane must be the suitable punishment for the two of you. I groaned as my lips quivered when I touched my forehead, seeing blood in it. There was a huge impact she created by banging my head on the edge of the table. Are you all right, Seraphina? Nisia asked as she approached me and checked me. I am all right. I scoffed and shed a tear. She fished out her handkerchief and went to the sink to soak it in water before she tended me to clean the blood from my head. This pain is nothing compared to when I gave birth to my son, Nisia. I chuckled softly. Nisia shook her head. But it is still painful. TSK. Madame Ibanez really does not know her limits when hurting her workers. She sobbed. We are werewolves, so the wounds will heal quickly. I shrugged as soon as she was done cleaning my forehead and head. We must get back to work. We didn't want to get caught by Madame. I sighed and massaged my temple when I felt a little dizzy from that banging of my head. Nisia wanted to protest, but she nodded her head and agreed. I went home by the time it was already 10 in the evening. I was walking my way back home when I came to see a shop where some of the people were eating some good meals. I sighed and averted my eyes from them, ignoring how they smelled so good, but I didn't have much earnings because I was penniless and didn't get proper wages from Madame Ibanez. It was always inadequate. Even if we met the date set to expect by our noble clients, I arrived in a dilapidated flat after walking for 15 minutes from the shop of Madame Ibanez. I opened the door and locked it. Then I got teary-eyed, seeing my son hugging a stuffed toy beside him while he was sleeping on the crumbling couch. I knelt before him. "You were waiting for me, weren't you?" I sniffed after whispering as I kissed his forehead before I decided to bring him to my bedroom. I melted and felt helpless because of my situation. I went to my small dining room where a small kitchen was also there. I cried when I saw that Sander made dinner for me. It was a rice porridge my son made for me. He was only 6 years old. Yet he already learned so fast what he must cook, just by teaching him a few recipes I knew. Sander. I enjoyed eating it. While I felt bad as a mother that my son was already doing this for me, I would make it up to him, as always. It was a good thing that I have a day off tomorrow. I went to check my savings hidden under the bedside table. I bit my lower lip. I only have 2 gold coins, a few silver coins, and some copper coins saved here from working at Madame Ibanez's tailoring shop. I glanced at my son who was sleeping soundly. Perhaps I could take my son to the nearest public garden here, or maybe to a seaside here in Alverton. I looked at the wardrobe where my wolf was urging me to check it. I hid the money I saved and went to Sander and I's wardrobe to see the wooden box that has a lock on it. Sighing, I caressed it and shook it a little, causing them to be clinking. I used the locked key I had and opened them. There, I saw a bunch of gold coins and a few pieces of luxury jewelry I had never touched for years. I think it is time for us to live in a decent flat. I sighed, seeing the rundown surrounding. I chose to stay with my son because I never intended to use them that came from the past, the only asset I brought when I ran away. I was not spending this money because I was afraid of being detected by that man. Also, I would only use it if Sander was sick and I needed a doctor to treat him, especially if he had a high fever or some illness I didn't know how to treat. I even used it to purchase a potion to heal him. I sighed and stared outside the window. I wonder how he is right now. Since I ran away from our pack, I never had any news when I traveled away from the Rising Diamond Pack. Located at Penrith, took 3 days to get there. I stayed by my son's side as soon as I got to decide where we must go for my day off. I gently combed his hair and planted a soft kiss for my little boy. No, he was my little man because Sander grew mature as soon as he realized that we were living in poverty. I hate to see that he also had to be more understanding that his mother needed to work hard, just so we could have a good life. "Mama," Sander said, half asleep. He rubbed and tried to look at me with his droopy amber eyes. He wanted to see if I was already here. "Shh, it is all right, son. You can go back to sleep." I gently combed his hair and kissed his forehead one more time. His frail little hands clung to my neck as he buried his face in the crook of my neck. "Mama, I missed you." I got teary-eyed and hugged him. "I know, my little man. Mama missed you too. My apologies for always coming so late and going out so early for work." "Oh, Sander. I missed my son, and I spent less of my time with him. It hurts to see that my son would have to beg for my time, and I needed to work to provide for the needs he needed. Mama, I understand." Then I heard his soft snore after he spoke. I heaved out a sigh. "Oh, Sander, I swear. I will make amends with you, my son." I woke up the next morning having Sander not in my arms. I panicked and got up from the single bed where we both slept. Sander. I went to the dining room to see brown-colored bread made from barley flour with rye on the table. Then I heard a hissing sound coming from a pan and saw Sander's small back and messy golden hair locks inherited from mine. "Sander," I called when I found out that he was cooking. My son named Sander stiffened before he turned around and smiled. Good morning, Mama. He instantly hugged me. I hugged him so tight and carried him in my arms. You are cooking for Mama again, little man. I checked what he was cooking and saw that he was cooking some salmon. Upon finding it out, I couldn't help kissing his forehead, as I felt a little bad that he was doing this for me. I must be the one who must do this to him. But it turned out to be otherwise. I woke up early, Mama, to catch a salmon in the river for our morning meal. He beamed. I lifted him down and knelt before him. I must be the one doing this work as your mother, not you, Sander, I said softly. He was always like this. Ever since he easily learned to cook, he would always wake up early and cook for me, and the fact that he was just 6 years old, that would turn 7 in the next few months. Sander shook his head, which made his hair locks go along with him shaking it. Mama, I want to help you. Mama is always tired when she goes home so late. I want to do something for Mama, I sighed teary-eyed. Sander, I hugged and kissed his cheek. My little man, you are too mature for my own good. I felt like I did not deserve to be his mother. I also couldn't believe that I carried this little man for 3 months and gave birth to this world. He was really too mature. I will protect you, Mama, my son said and hugged me back. Sander. Sander was a child who learned everything with just one glance. He learned to speak before he reached a year old. He even knew how to sew, even though he was only just watching me. He even knew how to clean, even though I didn't teach him. He even knew how to catch a fish by using his wolf form, even though I taught him to use a fishing rod. Yes. Sander had his wolf form by the age of 5. Supposedly, an average person could only transform to his or her wolf form at the age of 18. However, Sander was different. There was also a reason why he could transform so early. Sander has the blood of an alpha that runs in his veins. That was the reason. There was no doubt about that. He really was the son of Desmond, and my son didn't know that. He didn't know that he had that blood running through his veins. I only told him that he was a child prodigy that could surpass the limit of an average werewolf, and that we were peasants or simply we were rogues that do not belong to any path. Sander had no idea that he was a son of an alpha. I hadn't told him about how I absconded from the Rising Diamond Pack because of the painful experiences I had because of Desmond's action. You are such a sweet boy, my little man. Let Mama handle this and make amends with you. All right. I winced his hair, which made him also. Today is my day off, I informed him. Sander gasped. Really, Mama? I nodded. I want to go out with you, Mama. He hugged my thigh and looked up at me with his pleading look. Pretty please, he pleaded. Amusement park or seaside. Pick and we shall go out to eat there. I flipped the salmon before I faced my son with a smile. He was about to answer when he suddenly remembered. But Mama, how about the money you will use for it? Can we not pack our food? I inhaled sharply when I got teary-eyed, because my son was thinking about the money that I was going to spend. It ached my heart that my son had to think this way. I would try to sell a few of the jewelry I had. I already decided that we must live in a decent flat. But before doing that, I must be careful because those jewelry were one of a kind. It meant that Desmond personally made the designs just for me. That was how he expressed his love for me. That was how Desmond showed his devotion to his mate. I knelt on one knee and gently poked his nose. Do not worry about it. We only go out once in a while. I can use the one I am saving in my reserve fund. There was a worried expression on his face. Mama, I am selfish. Let's not go out anymore. He hugged me. I smiled that he was being considerate. Shh, perhaps. I haven't told you about the other reserve funds I got. I lifted him again in my arms before I finished frying the salmon, and placed them on our platter. Other reserve funds? He blinked. Uh-huh. I nodded. I never touch it because I want to save it in case you get sick, and Mama does not know what to do about how to treat you. I put him down in his seat before I took the sorrel leaves, water, and sugar to make some sorrel sauce for our fried salmon. Sander only had a perplexed expression. It also meant that he didn't expect I would ever have one. I only chuckled while I was grinding the 3 ingredients before I used a linen cloth to squeeze it into the salmon. Eat up, little man, I urged him. Mama. He looked at me, looking worried. I sighed and smiled again. Should I tell him a fairy tale? Do you want to hear a story? He tilted his head. Story? I nodded. What story, Mama? I clasped my hands together when I put my elbows on the table. It is about the Luna who found her Prince Charming and ran away. I started. There are so many food stalls here, Mama. I can't pick one. Sander beamed as we came to walk to the seaside and saw some food stalls. I chuckled and held his hand tightly. How about we go to a nearby restaurant? I am very sure you haven't experienced coming there, have you? His eyes widened in awe. Restaurant? I nodded, caressing his hair. I would love to. I fixated on his body and his hat. There? I cupped his cherub face. My baby pup grows up so fast I can't accept it yet, I said, feeling emotional as I gave him some kisses which Sander giggled at. Mama, I want to grow up so I can protect you. I will look for work and I will earn so hard that Mama won't work anymore. That made me teary-eyed. What did I do to deserve you? I kissed his forehead. He was such an adorable child. I really don't deserve this pup, because I love my Mama. My playmates teased me that you don't love me anymore because Mama is not staying with me for the whole day. But I told them you are working for us so we can have a meal to eat. You did not abandon me, right, Mama? Number abandon. You? I almost cussed, wanting to hurt those people who said that to my son. I already knew those annoying neighbors from the corners of the streets were teasing my son with those kinds of words. Mama loves you so much. There is no way Mama is going to do that, I said softly to assure him. Do not listen to them, Sander. All right, little man? He nodded. Yes, Mama. Good boy. I kissed his forehead one more time before we decided to pick which restaurant would accept us. We were dressed in decent and well-dressed clothes. This was my first time wearing a dress that looked expensive. I used to wear expensive dresses years ago. I spent months finishing Sander and I's clothes. I managed to get some excess fabric from Madame Ibanez's tailor shop. Sander saw my work and even helped me with how to do his clothes. It was our bonding moment, as mother and son, that I would always cherish. We entered a restaurant that screamed luxury and elegance. Because I was once a wife of a nobleman, it was easy for me to act prim and proper, even with having a son who was quick to learn how to act like a noble one. This way, my lady. I nodded and didn't utter a word. I glanced at my son who was holding his head high. He glanced up at me with his little hat on his head. I winked at him, which made him giggle. I decided to have us on the balcony to see the good scenery of the seaside, which fascinated my son. Just looking at him was already enough to take away all the worries I had. I also ordered the dishes, which I still knew what they taste like, and I was sure that my son would like them. Because we both have similar taste buds, when our order arrived, Sander couldn't help to express that he was seeing savory crayfish, grilled steak, and lasagna. Then his eyes widened when he saw the almond cream tart and blueberry cheesecake for desserts. Mama, can we eat this? He beamed as his mouth watered, chuckling. I nodded. Yes, we will eat to our heart's content, my little man. I gently poked his nose. Go and dig in. I watched as my son ate the dishes to his heart's content. Moaning in delight, his face was beaming. Then his giggles. It was so adorable to watch him. I would cherish this memory I always have with my son. We didn't leave as soon as we finished our meal. I even ordered some chamomile tea while herbal tea for Sander. I taught him how a noble should drink its tea, which he eventually learned and drank, learning more of the etiquettes. Am I doing well, Mama? He asked, showing me the way he was holding his teacup. I checked it strictly, seeing his thumb and forefinger were holding the handle while his middle finger was supporting the bottom. His ring and pinky fingers were tucked in. I nodded. Yes. Then sip your tea. Be careful, it is hot when you drink it, I said softly. He nodded, and carefully sipped on his tea. I watched as his face turned upside down. It tastes bland, Mama, I chuckled. Oh yes, you did not put any sugar cubes here. I put one on his tea. I even put some milk in it. Mix it, then try it again. He did what I told him before I finally saw the satisfaction on his face. It tastes good now, Mama. He giggled. I am glad you like it. I looked at my reflection in the tea, suddenly recalling my old life as a wife of a nobleman. I once had butlers and maids beside me, serving me some snacks and tea. I suddenly remembered that I used to prepare snacks and tea for that man, and I considered it a bonding moment with him, now that I lived my life as a peasant, going back to being an Omega, not as the Luna of the pack. I needed to thrive harder as I needed to provide something for my son. Sander was only staying at our flat. Sometimes he would go out and would tell me that he played with the other kids from our neighborhood, who were also living in dilapidated houses. We took a stroll around the seaside. We smelled the salty smell of the sea when it mixed in the breeze. We also visited some shops where I bought him a few new clothes for his everyday wear. Since I only brought 2 gold coins with me, I knew that we could purchase some food in the food stalls, especially the meat skewer, which became Sander's favorite. He was so adorable. This was our first time going out. Would you like us to do this again on your birthday? I asked when we were enjoying the meat skewers under the tree. Really, Mama? Uh-huh. Mama will work so hard so that my little Sander will have a grandiose celebration. I exclaimed. His face beamed. Mama, thank you. He hugged me. Of course. I love my baby boy. So it has to be that way, I said, smiling. We took a few strolls and halted in an ornamental shop along the way. It was Sander's idea that we needed to see something, because something caught his eyes. Do you want a pendant or bangle, Sander? I asked as he was stroking his chin like he was thinking something serious about what to pick he wanted. Sander! I arched my eyebrow. Then he picked a sterling silver bracelet that was flower petal shaped. May I ask how much this is? That would be 1 silver coin. The merchant answered. His eyes widened as he blinked. Surprised at the price, I gently tapped his back. I will pay for it, little man. I smiled gently. It looked like he wanted it, so I fished out a silver coin in my coin purse when Sander spoke. Mama, I will pay for it. I blinked when Sander handed out a silver coin to the seller. Then my son turned to me and took my wrist. I was surprised as to when he did get that coin. Mama, this is for you. I know Mama loves flowers. I want Mama to always remember me when she is at her work, and I want to tell Mama that I love her very much. Oh, Sander. I couldn't help myself hugging my little man Sander. Oh dear, moon goddess. What have I done to deserve this child? I felt so blessed to have Sander by my side. I didn't want this to last. I want him to be my forever baby. Sander looked at me and saw that I was wiping my tears. I am just happy, I stated before he could even ask a question. I caressed his cherub cheek and smiled. I am so lucky to have you, my dearest Sander, I said in a low tone. I love you so much, he giggled when I winced his hair. I love you more, Mama. He hugged my thigh. We decided to come home while we were sauntering our way to the pavement. Swinging our hands together, we were happily humming when a strong wind suddenly passed, by which my son's hat flew and landed on the Sander. I called my son, when he immediately went to pick it up, but before he could get it, a large hand came to pick it up from the ground. I hastily approached my son and turned to the man who was also wearing a hat by bowing my head. Sorry for the trouble, my lord, I said politely, gravely apologizing before I turned my head when the man didn't say anything. Sander, what must you say? I asked when the man returned the hat to him. Lowering his head to look at my son, I knitted my forehead as I didn't get a chance to see his lordship's face because of his hat. But I was certain that his eyes only focused on Sander. Sander blinked and furrowed his eyebrows. Mama. He tugged my hand after taking the hat from him. Yes. Sander was about to take something, but the man gently tipped his hat to him and me before he immediately stepped back and didn't turn his head to us anymore. That bewildered me as I didn't get a chance to see his face. He didn't even utter a word. Was he a mute person? He could have at least looked into my eyes. No. Rude. I almost shook my head at that moment, but I halted myself. I turned to Sander, whose eyes still darted to the man who was walking away from us. Sander, why did you not say thank you to him? That is rude that you did not say that. I softly caressed his hair before I returned the hat to him. Sander looked at me. There was bewilderment written on his face. Mama, why does he look like me? Who? I was perplexed. Look like him. Sander raised his hand and pointed to something. That man, he looks like me, Mama. But his face looks mature. As soon as he said that, I suddenly felt chills down my spine as I looked up to follow where Sander was pointing it. I even felt my heart racing wildly when I couldn't find the man we just met a while ago. My hands were fidgeting as I immediately lifted my son into my arms. We must head back. And now, I said nervously. I was bothered by Sander's words as soon as we headed back home. Even though days had already passed, I could still feel chills down my spine. I didn't get a chance to ask him about it and what the man really looked like. But if what Sander proclaimed that the man looked like my son, could it be him? He was here. That was impossible for sure. This rural town was far away from where I lived before. It was impossible that he would be able to find me since I never used my maiden surname or his surname. I only used my own name since as a peasant, they don't have any surname. I knew that I was safe because having a name Serafina was a very common name here in the Sawinski kingdom, but if Desmond managed to find me, then I must do what it took to hide my son away from him. There was no way that he had a chance to see our son. Never. After he hurt me, after he made me a fool from our marriage, did he really think that he deserved to know about our son absconding from his pack? I wasn't really expecting that I would get pregnant with my pup. What I heard from Desmond himself, I was infertile, which was why he was making an agreement with Hazel to be a surrogate mother for our pup. That was why I was really surprised when I found out that I was pregnant. I was still wondering how it happened, but I was really thankful that the moon goddess had bestowed me a pup, even if it was impossible now. I caressed my son's golden locks, which he inherited from me. The rest of his facial features came from Desmond. As he grew up, he would be looked like his father. You really look like your father, little man, I said softly, feeling sorrow that I even had to see Desmond's face toward Sander. Sander groaned softly and hugged me. I gently smiled and kept him beside me before I kissed his forehead. I must decide now on going to a new flat. Once I had my day off, I would let Sander come with me. We finish it, Nisia and I said. In unison, as we both intertwined our hands together and jumped in joy, we were joyful because, after a restless week, we finished Lady Helga's cicada gown. What it seemed to rejoice right now, as we finished it before the deadline, which was 3 days before that day. We need to tell this to Madame Ibanez first, Nisia said after we both celebrated. Yes, I nodded, silently praying that we would have the approval coming from Madame Ibanez. Later that day, Nisia and I were finally free from this heavy work as soon as Madame Ibanez said that she approved it. We packed it in a box so that when Lady Helga would arrive on that day, we could have her try it. It was already 6 in the evening when I went home since we didn't have much work to do and saw Sander, who was sewing his trousers. I knitted my forehead when I saw him crying. Sander? His eyes widened as he looked up to meet my eyes. Then he immediately hid the trousers he was sewing. What are you doing, sweetheart? I asked, and approached him to wipe the tears from his eyes. Why are you crying? I asked softly. He didn't answer. He looked away, feeling guilty. I sighed, knowing what could have been. Did you fight with the neighbor's kids again? Sander bit his lower lip and silenced for a moment before he nodded. You ripped your trousers again because you transformed to your wolf form. Another nod. Why did you fight them again, little man? I asked softly. Coercing him to look at me, Sander was on the verge of crying when he looked at me. I smiled gently, urging him to tell me. He started sniffing and hugged me. Mama, he sobbed. Now, what is it, little man? I gently caressed his hair. They teased me again. That I do not have a father. I stiffened as my eyes widened. Did they tease him again? I hugged my son, wanting to comfort him. Don't listen to them. You are finer without a father, Sander. I felt my blood boil all of a sudden. Every time I would think of Desmond, I couldn't help feeling anger towards him. No matter if 7 years had already passed, I couldn't wash away how he betrayed me twice. But, is Papa dead, Mama? I secretly gritted my teeth at Sanders' question. That would be difficult for me to answer. I do not want to lie in front of him, but this part was necessary. To me, he is dead, Sander, I said as I smiled bitterly. Huh? He blinked. Do you hate Papa, Mama? I didn't answer. I only kissed his forehead to divert his question. I shall prepare our supper. You can stop now. I'll continue sewing your trousers, I said, going to the kitchen. Mama. I sighed as I knew that Sander wouldn't drop this topic. Did Papa hurt you, Sander? I looked at him with an earnest gaze. Please, not a word about your father, can you? He was about to open his mouth to say something, but I only looked at him, warning him. Sander closed his mouth and nodded. Yes, Mama. With that, he returned to our quarters. I suddenly felt bad that I had been acting like that to Sander. I couldn't help feeling bitter whenever he was mentioning about his father. I didn't even want to discuss it, but I knew that Sander had the right to know about who his father was, but not right now. I was still not ready to tell him about Desmond. I wanted to tell him when I already moved from the past. I didn't want to feel enraged if I happened to start telling him about Desmond. I would feel bad if I didn't control my emotions and I lashed out at Sander. I don't want that to happen. Sighing. I must apologize to my son later. I didn't want to act like that. I am sorry, Sander. I murmured. This is our new home, Mama. Sander asked with his eyes widened in awe. I roamed my eyes around, seeing that this new flat I rented was well maintained. I was glad that I found a caring landlady who was so accommodating to her tenants, unlike the landlady where Sander and I stayed before. Her rent was cheap, yet it was dilapidated. I only rented there because I wanted to live in a simple flat that would avoid having me found by Desmond. But I was glad that I found a flat that would fit in my budget for my wage of being a seamstress, and my workplace was 2 blocks away from our new flat. I looked at Sander and gently caressed his hair. Yes, little man, this is our new home with no annoying neighbors, I said. He giggled when I gently pinched his nose. Can I go out while you are away, Mama? He asked. I saw a river that isn't far away from here, I chuckled. Sander would always love going to rivers, and going to hunt some salmon. As long as you are not going anywhere aside from that river, it shall be fine with me, little man. Yes, Sander jumped in joy. Shall you help me unpack our things, little man? He nodded, giggling. Now, this should make me feel at ease now. I knew that I wouldn't have to be troubled by worrying about the welfare of my son, since the neighbors here were kind. I was only worried about Sander having such extreme escapades, as he had this instinct of checking everything, if he was curious enough. Oh, you moved to a new flat? Nishia asked, as soon as I told her about it. I glanced at Sander, who was playing outside of the tailoring shop of Madame Ibanez. I usually brought him here if Sander was feeling bored back when we were living in the dilapidated flat. I returned my gaze to Nishia. It is about time that we moved out. It is hard to live in that place. I was referring to the previous flat Sander. And I lived in. She nodded and bestowed a cotton fabric after I told her to get me one. That is nice to hear, Serafina. I would love to visit you and bring something to your new home, she smiled sweetly. You can come by if you want, I said happily. I would love to have a new visitor there as well. All of the seamstresses suddenly behaved when Madame Ibanez arrived, looking at us with her deadly stare. We all looked away and continued our work. Serafina. I flinched when she called my name. Smiling wryly, I turned to her. Yes, madam. All right, Serafina. Calm down. She wouldn't lash out at me, would she? I didn't wish to have a dispute with her again. I didn't want to fight back. Your son. Her face darkened. Get him out from the front. He is bringing bad luck to my tailor shop. She raised her voice. I immediately bowed my head. Yes, I shall tend to it. Pardon me, madam. She rolled her eyes before she went inside her study room. As soon as she was there, all of us exhaled in relief. Madame Ibanez was a violent person. Although I could match her energy, I was afraid of losing work. It was hard to find some work these days, which was why I had been enduring being working as the seamstress in her tailor shop. I went outside to call Sander. I need you to behave, Sander. Madame Ibanez doesn't like kids, so please refrain from running and roaming around the shop. Do you get me? I asked softly as I caressed his golden locks. Sander answered. Later that day, we became busy. Sander was beside me, watching me, having a fascination in his eyes. I could already tell that he wanted to insist that he wanted to try it as well, but he just patiently watched there. We heard laughter coming from the study room of Madame Ibanez. I was certain that she was having fun chatting with her new client. Then we heard the door opening. His lordship will look forward to his new tailored tuxedo. Madam, I glanced at the man who was bowing his head to Madame Ibanez. Madame Ibanez fluttered her fan and hid her half-face. I shall bring one of my seamstresses there, Sir Elrond. We will look forward to your arrival. The man named Elrond said before. He turned his back and left the tailor shop. My eyes were glued to the door of the shop, silently thinking that man seemed like a servant from a noble family. It seemed that this shop would get busy again. Listen, everyone. We looked up at the gallery when Madame Ibanez clapped her hands to gather our attention. We have a big-time client. His lordship wants a skillful seamstress who can tailor him a tuxedo for the party he is going to attend next month. One of you must come with me to visit the hotel where he is staying at. The murmurs coming from my fellow seamstresses started to occur. I looked down when Sander gently tugged my dress. I smiled when he showed me that he was sewing extra pieces of fabric that were thrown off the floor. I nodded and bestowed him a thumbs up that he got my approval. Serafina. I immediately stood up. Yes, madam. I looked at her when I saw that her face looked like she wanted to explode already. I gulped because it seemed like she looked at me when she called my name. She squinted her eyes as I saw her nose was flaring in annoyance already. You are coming with me tomorrow. You are taking the measurement, I gasped. What? My heart dropped upon hearing that. Shit. I was really hoping not to be chosen for the next clothing that we needed to sew. But it seemed I had made a mistake. But Madame Ibanez, I wanted to beg to disagree, but she cut me off. Hush. Not a word from your filthy mouth. She almost screamed, and I felt the screeching sound in my head that almost made my wolf and me insane from that voice of hers. I have already decided, so shut the hell up. I gripped my skirt, wanting to bark at her. This made me feel insulted, but there was no way I could do that because my work was going to be at risk. In the end, I bowed my head. Yes, madam. As you wish, she scoffed and returned to her study room again. We all flinched when she slammed the door. Sighing, I turned at Nishia, suddenly feeling stressed at this moment. It is all right, Serafina. At least we are going to work together for this new client, Nishia said. Trying to lift up my mood, I only nodded and sat down beside Sander. Is it just me or she is always annoyed at me every single time our eyes meet? I asked, half annoyed. Nishia chuckled. She may feel envious that you are more of a beauty than her, she winked. I scoffed. You and your silly jokes. What? She fluttered her eyes. You are really beautiful, Serafina. You should try entertaining some guys. I looked at her in disbelief. Number. I glanced at Sander, who was busy sewing again. I have no time for that, Nishia. I am focused more on my son, I said, and smiled gently, seeing that my son was the light of my life. My little man in my life, for sure. Sander is looking for a father figure already. She glanced at Sander. Sander, do you wish to have a new papa? I inhaled slowly when Sander looked up at Nisha and shook his head. Here we go again. We were talking about papa again. I don't want a new papa. I want my real papa. That made me stiff. I couldn't even utter another word from this. The determination from Sander's voice was making me shiver. I didn't know what to say next, but I was thankful when Nishia spoke. Where is your real papa then? I creased my forehead when I glanced at Nishia. Nishia, there was a warning in my tone. She knew that I didn't like talking about Sander's father because of the past I had with him. Nishia smiled wryly. Sorry, I turned to Sander, who had just spoken. Mama does not want to talk about Papa. Maybe Papa hurt Mama. If that happens, my real Papa hurts Mama. I do not want to see him ever again. My eyes widened at Sander's words. I was rendered speechless that he had said these things to me. Even Nishia looked surprised at what my son said. Sander looked at me with an earnest expression. I will protect you, Mama. I will not let anyone hurt you. Even if that is my real Papa. I will fight back for you. With that, he hugged me while I was left in a daze. I couldn't believe it. Did Sander utter those words? Did he seriously not want to see Desmond? I was supposed to be happy upon hearing this. Right, then. Why did I feel otherwise? Mama, please take care. I kissed Sander on his forehead. Yes. Continue to write them. All right then. We will proceed to the next lesson once I go home. Be a good boy here, Sander, since we already had a new home. I already introduced Sander to studying more by reading and writing. Though I couldn't say that I had knowledge about it, I only thought about what I thought would be convenient for my son while I was away. The education here was only favorable to all the nobles. It was a good thing that Desmond had made me study lessons when we were still getting to know each other. At that time I was still wary of him. But still, I accepted the education he bestowed on me since he insisted. It was the time he knew that I couldn't read and write. It was very helpful for me, and thanks to that, I could pass my knowledge to Sander. I went to the tailor shop early this morning. I even got to meet Nisia along the way. I hope Madame Ibanez is not here yet, I said when we went to our workstation. Are you quite nervous to meet Madame's new client? Nisia asked, slightly worried. I shook my head. Not really. I am really prepared for it. In fact, I already prepared the tape measurement and the journal to list the measurement of his lordship. Sighing, I didn't even know what could have been the name of the lord that Madame Ibanez needs to visit later. I just wished to finish this as soon as possible. But I was certain that I would get in trouble if I did not do my work right. Madame Ibanez and I would have to brawl, and I would end up getting hurt again. Risking my work must not go there. It didn't take long for Madame Ibanez to arrive. She even prepared for the carriage. Hope on, you peasant, she said, scoffing. I only bowed my head as an answer. I must not dare to retort back, or else I would put my job in jeopardy. I wouldn't want that to happen. It didn't take long when we arrived in another town called Eastbourne, where Madame Ibanez said that this was where our new client was residing in a luxury hotel. We got down from the carriage. I even managed to look up as I heaved out a sigh. I just hoped that the lord we were about to deal with was kind enough not to make a hasty deadline schedule. I wouldn't have to work so late and allow my son to cook for me again. I knew that Sander would have been feeling so lonely whenever he was eating alone. I experienced that, and I hated to admit that Sander felt the same way, too. Let's go. Slow poke, Madame Ibanez, as she glared at me before she huffed and walked towards the entrance of the hotel, sighing. I followed her. I checked the dress I was wearing right now. It was a good thing that I used a much more presentable dress, so that I wouldn't put Madame Ibanez to shame. I would have done that, but I didn't want her to have to put in overtime because of her annoyance with me. I couldn't help but get awed as soon as I saw the interior design of the hotel. I saw the red carpeted walls, wall lamps, and even chandeliers. The wall even had gold intricate designs, which added a cozy atmosphere here in the surrounding. I knew that I shouldn't supposed to be surprised about seeing the interior design of a hotel, because in the past I'd always been with Desmond, and he always wanted me to come with him when we married for certain businesses coming from the palace. But I couldn't help but get awed no matter if I had been in a hotel before. We went upstairs and landed on the 8th floor. Damn it! Why does he have to be on this floor? Madame Ibanez said, as she was panting from climbing up the stairs. I almost laughed at her statement, but I behaved myself when she glared at me. Calm down, Serafina. Do not laugh, or you will be dead at her. Keep laughing. Do you wish to work overtime again? She squinted her eyes at me. I pursed my lips into a thin line and bowed my head, apologizing. Pardon me, madam. Ah, damn it. Please divert your attention from me, Madame Ibanez. If you kept glaring at me like that, I would really end up laughing at your words. Huffing, She continued to walk and halted in front of the door. Then she knocked while I stayed behind her. The door opened and revealed the man named Elron. He bowed before us and greeted Madame Ibanez. "This way, madam," he said, and gestured his hand that we should follow him after we entered their chamber. "Thank you, Sir Elron," Madame Ibanez said in a sweet tone. I secretly rolled my eyes with the tone she had right now. It was pretty obvious that she was trying to make a good impression with him since she said yesterday that we have a big-time client. "What refreshment do you like, Madame Ibanez?" the man asked politely. "Tea juice?" "Tea would be fine," Madame Ibanez chimed in. Not letting him finish his words, I suppressed the frown. I almost stretched out because of how rude she acted. I knew that we shouldn't be supposed to chime in like that. We must let the other person finish talking first. "I see. Even so." Sir Elron still had a neutral smile before he turned at me. "How about you, lady?" He paused, wanting to know my name. "Serafina, good sir," I said, and curtsied as a sign of respect. Sir Elron waved his hand and shook his head. "No need to curtsy before me. Lady Serafina, I am just a simple butler of my lord," he said. "Any refreshment do you like as well?" "I am good with tea. Thank you," I said before I turned to Madame Ibanez, who was glaring at me when Sir Elron left. I lowered my head, not wanting to meet her eyes. I could already tell that she was getting annoyed each second we were staying in the same room. Even in the past, she had always been like this. She was always annoyed with me. Even if she saw just a glimpse of me, she would do anything to lash out at me. And sometimes worse, she would hurt me. I never intended to fight back because the work was important to me more than anything else. I only wanted to have work because I needed to provide everything for my son. "I apologize for keeping you waiting," I snapped back when Sir Elron arrived. I roamed my eyes around while he was serving us some tea. I wondered why he was the only butler here. I was thinking that if you came from a noble family, it was certain that you would have more butlers or servants under you. "Lord Verlis shall be here any moment. He is just busy for a while." I glanced down when Sir Elron served me some tea and some snacks. I murmured thank you to him. I took the teacup when I heard the opening of the other door. "Lord Verlis." I glanced at Madame Ibanez when she stood up. Her eyes were sparkling. "Sorry to keep you waiting." "My alpha is here." I focused my eyes on the cup of tea I was holding when I stood up as well, not minding the two people approaching. Just before I could take a sip on it, I shivered when I heard a familiar male voice I haven't heard in the past. I looked up and saw, "Greetings, Lord Verlis," Madame Ibanez greeted in a flirty tone. "Greetings, madam." I froze upon hearing another familiar baritone voice coming from someone I knew. It was the voice of a man that always sent shivers down my spine. However, I couldn't smell the familiar distinctive smell of the combination of citrus, orange, and cedarwood. "I see you have brought a companion with you." I slowly raised my glance. As soon as I saw the person I never wanted to see for years, I knew that the moment our eyes met, I had fallen into a trap. I shivered, wanting to get away as soon as possible. The smile meant something. The smile meant you had messed up with the wrong person, and you must be prepared for the consequences of your actions. There was no way I was facing him right now. I must be dreaming. Right now, there was no way Desmond was in front of me. Right? You must be. Desmond paused, acting like he wanted to know my name. I froze to my ground, unable to speak. Shivers kept coming, seeing his stare piercing me. "Talk. Serafina. Talk." Her name is Serafina, one of my seamstresses. "She will be the one taking your measurement, Lord Verlis," Madame Ibanez answered. I inhaled almost sharply when I heard Madame Ibanez say Lord Verlis. I almost pinched myself for failing to hear the surname. Verlis. How could I ignore it at all times? Verlis' surname was only owned by Desmond himself. The devil in disguise. "I see." "Serafina, it is." I snapped back, feeling my heart was about to explode as I faced my mate. I rejected who was also my former husband. I felt shivers down my spine when he mentioned my name as if he was tasting it. wanting to see if it was according to his taste or not. I could feel my hands fidgeting right now when I came to see Oakley, one of his betas who was settling beside him. Our eyes met, but he didn't react that he was facing his former Luna of the Rising Diamond Pack. Shall we begin the measurement then? I am kind of in a hurry right now, Desmond said. I glanced at Desmond, hearing his soft, subtle tone. But I knew better than anyone else here that kind of tone was just an act so he would look kind and gentle. He was hiding his true self, which was menacing and frightening. Come on now, Serafina. Go on. I flinched when Madame Ibanez placed her hands on my shoulders and pinched me, which almost made me bark at her. I glared at her, wanting to slap the heck out of her, but she only widened her eyes, warning me that if I dared to humiliate her in front of our new client, she was going to kill me. That was for certain, smiling bitterly. I took the measuring tape and approached my former mate. Every step I took was getting heavy just by walking in his direction. The authority and eerie aura he had right now was making me shiver, while his amber eyes were darting at me. I felt like I was courting my death once I was in front of him. But I could tell that I felt intoxicated just by having his presence succumb to my whole being right now. I just hope Madame Ibanez realized how uncomfortable I was. But I knew that it was impossible that she cared for her workers' feelings. She never cared at all. My lord, I will take you some measures. I thanked myself for finally finding my voice. I was thankful that I didn't falter in my voice, or else I knew that he would realize that everything was a mess for me right now. Relax, Serafina. Remember what Desmond did to you. At that moment, my expression changed into an earnest one, and made me stiffer than before. I instantly felt my blood boil upon remembering him and Hazel. He made me a fool. He was a bastard, and didn't deserve to know my son after all. Very well, Desmond said, while he was facing me and removed his blazer. I eyed him up and down as I gulped when his lean body was penetrating his tunic. I could see his body built that still looked firm and well-toned. Gulping, I stepped forward until I was in front of him. Lord Verlis, I will say it now. I thank you for the opportunity for choosing us to sew your customized tuxedo, Madame Ibanez said with a rejoicing tone. Please kneel a little. I said softly, as I could already tell that once she started talking, it would be nonstop and you had to force yourself to listen to every word she was going to say. I straightened my back when I felt his hand on my side, which was hidden from the point-blank vision from Madame Ibanez's point of view, as the measuring tape was wrapped around his collar. My eyes widened when I looked at Desmond, whose lips were stretching out to a small smirk. I must say thank you for coming here, Desmond said, as I almost gasped when I felt his thumb grazing my flank, which sent shivers down my spine. If someone was looking at our position, no one would suspect that he was touching me, because I was too close to him to measure his collar and chest. It would be mistaken that it would be an accident that Desmond touched me, but when I felt his hand was just below my breast, caressing and teasing it, I suddenly felt alarmed and stepped back immediately. I will write the measurement, I said softly, panicking as I felt my heart hammering inside my chest. What fabric do you wish for us to use, my lord? Is it cashmere, cotton, silk, linen, velvet, wool, or worse? Madame Ibanez asked, as she stood up and showed some pieces of fabric to Desmond, while I was taking his measurement in his sleeve, which should be taken from the outer side of his arms, starting from his collar. I halted for a moment, after writing down the measurement, while Desmond was feeling the texture of the fabrics in his fingers. I shall pick cashmere. My wife always chooses that for me, Desmond said, as his eyes darted on me meaningfully, before he turned at Madame Ibanez, drawing out a small smile. Madame Ibanez giggled. Oh, I see. His lordship already has a wife. I could sense the slight bitterness smeared on her tone, which made me want to turn my head at her. Where is Lady Verlis, then? She asked as she glared at me, indicating that I must continue taking measurements. She even enlarged her eyes again at me, which I just nodded, and proceeded to take his measurement. I took the measurement from his natural waistline to the hem before I listed it down. Then when I came to face him, and was about to measure his inside leg, which I needed to measure from the top of the inside leg, near the crotch down to the ankle bone, my eyes widened when I realized that I was facing his crotch. Kneeling in front of Desmond, I was rendered speechless when I looked up to see Desmond's amber eyes sparkling in lust. As soon as I saw that emotion come across his face, I immediately stood up when I realized the awkward position that I was kneeling in front of him, like I was doing something that he would like. "What is wrong?" Desmond asked. His tone sounded concerned, but his expression told otherwise as his eyes looked amused. "Is there something wrong, Serafina?" I panicked when Madame Ibanez's tone changed into an annoyed one. I needed to find a diversion so they wouldn't know that I was uncomfortable right now. Madam, is it?" I paused and glanced at Desmond, who was smirking right now. I secretly clenched my teeth in annoyance when I realized that he was playing with me. "What?" Her tone sounded impatient. "What on earth is happening to you?" Shit. She would scold me in front of them if I didn't do something. I cleared my throat. "And nothing, madam." I smiled wryly and approached Desmond. My lord, is it possible if you will hold this?" I asked as I bestowed him the edge of the measurement. I need to take your measurement in your inner leg," I said nervously, when he arched his eyebrow. "Huh." There was a disdainful expression on his face. "This is not my job to hold this, so why must I hold it?" "Serafina." Madame Ibanez rushed to me and pulled my hair. "What on earth are you doing? And you are making things complicated," she said angrily. "Do your work properly." I didn't get a chance to retort back at her when she pushed me to kneel in front of Desmond. Clenching my hands, I glared at her, wanting to initiate a punch to her face. I swear, I was so close to strangling her stout neck. "I am in a hurry." I froze when I heard Desmond's cold, fathomless tone. "Do it now, you peasant." I looked up and saw his degrading gaze at me. I secretly clenched my teeth before I bowed my head. "Pardon me, my lord," I said before I took the measurement and placed the edge of the measuring tape near his crotch, causing him to irk at his ground before I measured it down to his ankle bone. My hands were fidgeting as I measured it. But aside from that, I could have sworn something was growing, so I immediately removed my hand from that area and moved away from him so I could measure his center back length. I am finished," I announced as I wrote it down and lowered my head. I heard Madame Ibanez sighing in irritation. "On behalf of her, I would like to apologize for her behavior today, Lord Verlis. This is her first time acting like that. I shall punish her later for misbehaving like that." I shivered at her words. It could mean that I would be taking overtime work again. Damn it. This was Desmond's fault. No, it is fine. Just let her. She must have been uncomfortable with my presence. I glared at him when he smiled. I wanted to smudge that off right now, if no one was looking. In the end, I coerced a smile and bowed my head. "I apologize, Lord Verlis," I said bitterly, "a week before the party. I am hoping it will be finished." "Of course, my lord. I shall pay heed to that." I sighed in relief when it seemed that Desmond wasn't rushing to finish his tuxedo. But that didn't mean that Madame Ibanez would allow us not to have overtime work again. She would rush us for certain to finish it as soon as possible, just as she would always do to us. Then, she wouldn't even dare to pay our overtime working hours. One more thing. I glanced at Desmond when he spoke. His eyes were focused on Madame Ibanez as if he was trying to charm her. I scoffed silently. "That is right. That was how you charmed the courtesan and Hazel, didn't you?" That suddenly made me feel bitter as I remembered the past. I suddenly wanted to get away from this place. "Yes, my lord. What is it?" "I need a dress that I need to bestow to someone special to me." I simply took the macaroon and ate it, not minding what they were talking about, but I felt my stomach churning upside down for some reason upon hearing that Desmond had someone special to him. Must be Hazel. "Did you know her size, Lord Verlis?" Madame Ibanez asked, as she fished out the journal and was ready to write it down. I glanced up, waiting for his words, but my heart jumped when I caught him looking at me. I even felt my stomach somersaulted. "Her size is about the same as Lady Serafina." "I want you to take her measurement," he said while his eyes were piercing me. "Huh? Me?" I looked at him in disbelief. Was he serious about this? Hazel and I didn't even have a good body match. She was way more petite than me. Also, I gained weight, and hadn't regained my body from before, ever since I gave birth to Sander. I already thought that I had no time for that since all I had to take care of was my son's health more than mine. Do you have any complaints? He asked, arching his eyebrow. It was also one way to intimidate me. I wanted to say that I have a complaint. But then Madame Ibanez chimed in. Go on, Serafina. Stand up and I shall take your measure, she said through gritted teeth. But, madam, stand up. She smiled sweetly, indicating a warning glare at me. I pursed my lips into a thin line before I glared at Desmond, who had a look of amusement in his eyes. I exhaled sharply and forced myself to stand up. While Madame Ibanez was taking my measure, I quietly prayed that we could leave as soon as possible. The more I kept staying here, the more I felt my blood was boiling just by seeing Desmond. I even got to understand that he was now still with Hazel for sure. I felt bitterness all of a sudden. He was living his life to the fullest while I was suffering, and providing everything for my son. It was good that he didn't know that he had a son, or else I would try to abscond from him again. As long as he had no idea that we had a pup, it was all right for me to be at ease, even though this kind of reunion was something I didn't expect to experience. After 7 years, I got to meet my mate that I rejected. When everything was final, Madame Ibanez and I decided to leave. That was a relief to me, actually, because I couldn't handle Desmond's stare. I felt like he could even see my soul right now, which sent shivers down my spine. Dear me. I forgot my fan back there. I blinked at the sudden outburst of Madame Ibanez. She looked panicking and hyperventilating. The fan she usually used was quite expensive, and was gifted by one of the noble families who became her clients before. She turned at me. Go back. Get it for me. Me? I parroted, wide-eyed. Madame Ibanez glared. Who else am I talking to? The carriage? She asked sardonically. My jaw dropped. I opened my mouth to retort back, but then I stopped myself. Having no choice, I climbed upstairs again, up to the 8th floor. Damn that bitch. I swear you will have your karma someday, I murmured while cursing silently, as I was already in front of the door where Desmond was residing. I knocked 3 times. I was greeted by Sir Elron as I curtsied in front of him, and stated my business. Oh, I see. Please come in, my lady. I hesitated to come in. Pardon me, Sir Elron. Yes? He opened the door wide so I could come in, but I stayed there just before their door. I roamed my eyes around the inside of the hotel room before I smiled wryly when I heard silence. Lord Verlis is not here already, right? I gulped, wanting to confirm if Desmond had already left. Sir Elron nodded. Indeed. After you and Madame Ibanez left. That made me relieved. I see, I said, smiling. Now I could move freely. I got inside when he invited me one more time. I must check the couch. Madame must have left it there. Sir Elron nodded. I saw it there, you can take it. I settle it in the drawer. Thank you, Sir Elron. I went to the living room, and went to the cabinet which he said was where he kept the fan of Madame Ibanez. Sighing, I opened it and saw that it was there. Let's hope you are not going to lose this again, I murmured and rolled my eyes. I even huffed bitterly that Madame Ibanez was being careless. Of course. I am not going to lose you again, Seraphim. I shivered when I heard a husky whisper in my ear. I immediately turned my head and gasped upon seeing Desmond, who was already behind me. My heart even leaped out of my rib cage because of that. What? Wait. I thought he already left. Why are you still here? Desmond smiled furtively and stepped forward. I felt alarmed and immediately stepped backward until I felt the cabinet on my back. I panicked when Desmond didn't waste any time trapping me in between his arms, leaning his arms to either side of me. I leaned back my head when he drew his face closer to me. His intoxicating perfume reached through my nostrils. I knew that you would come back to get that, he whispered huskily to my ear. I could feel my knees wobble right at the moment. I felt like I was thrown back from the times when I first met him. I calmed myself. Do not fall from this trap again, Serafina. Do not let him overpower you again and end up getting hurt for the third time. Get off me, I said through gritted teeth. I placed my hands on his chest and was about to push him away from me, but I gasped when he suddenly pressed his front body to me. Desmond, I exclaimed, flushing at the awkward position I had with him. I could have sworn my body reacted when he pressed his front body more and entrapped me with his arms. I shivered when I felt his hot breath fanning against my ear, grazing my earlobe with his lips. I don't want to, he said in a slow, firm tone. I closed my eyes when his lips went down to my neck. It has been 7 years, Serafina, since you've gone hiding from me. I stiffened at my standpoint as I could feel my heart palpitating so fast when he said those words. I felt frightened when I thought that he must have known about our son. I silently prayed that he did not know about that. I have missed you, Seraphim, he whispered, while his hands were busy wandering around my body, causing me to close my eyes in submission. I held back a moan as my breath was getting heavier than before. End number. I must not fall from this petty trick. Then, an image of Desmond, seeing the courtesan he slept with, and the other thing that he must have kissed and slept with Hazel sparked in my mind. At that moment, I felt my wolf howling in pain upon remembering those memories. I ended up pushing Desmond away from me, asshole. I slapped his cheek so hard that I felt my heart, which was already broken, had come to slowly shatter again. I had tried to pick up the pieces of the broken pieces of my fragile heart and made sure that no one would shatter it again. But just by seeing Desmond again, all the pain and betrayal he did to me were returning like a flash flood. Desmond's face turned sideways while he was touching his cheek. I immediately moved out from leaning on the cabinet before I decided to get out of his hotel room without looking back again. Not again, Desmond. I am not letting you hurt me again. You asshole. Things had gotten busier as soon as we had more clients than usual. That was also a time we had to take shifts and have overtime work as well. I came home late again and saw on the table that Sander prepared for my supper. Sighing, I leaned on my seat, trying to relax as I thought about this week. I really had not enough rest and had no time to spend with my son again. I need to change my job, I murmured while leaning to the window as I silently heard the soft croak of the crickets. I glanced at my hands. I used to be good in combat for living as a rogue before, and now I couldn't even dare to bring myself to hurt other people just to survive. It was all different now because I had a son. I wouldn't resort to violence just to survive. Though Sander and I were still considered rogues, my life from before was indeed different right now. For the rest of 7 years, I worked here at Madame Ibanez's tailoring shop. There was a time when I had come to the point that I put my son in the orphanage as soon as I gave birth to him because I still had things to do such as earning money so I could provide for his needs when he was my baby pup. Are you all right, Serafina? I gasped and flinched when Nishia tapped my shoulder and offered me a cup of tea. I looked up at her and thanked her. My nape is aching from bending over, I said, smiling wryly. Nishia sighed and massaged the back of her head. Ah, yes. We have the same case. She circulated her arm. Wanting to stretch it out, I glanced at my back to see my fellow seamstresses who looked tired now before I looked at the wall clock, seeing that it was already 7 p.m. Yet we hadn't had our supper and we hadn't taken our rest. Until when we are going to do this again, I said, almost whining as I straightened my back and yawned. Nishia took a needle and a thread. I could already see the dark circles under her eyes. If I would look at myself in the mirror, I probably had the same facial features as hers. When the time reached 10 in the evening, I had already left the tailoring shop. While walking on the pavements, I could feel my vision getting blurry. I massaged my temple and leaned on the wall for a moment. I felt like I was close to passing out because of hunger and lack of rest. Sander. I fluttered my eyes as I looked up at the sky. This wasn't new to me. This didn't happen once that I was feeling tired and feeling like I was about to collapse. I just needed to rest for a moment, then I should proceed to go home. I can handle this, I murmured under my breath. Sander is waiting for me, I added, I rested for a minute there before I felt my legs collapse because of how sleepy I was. But instead of landing on the ground, I felt a pair of arms wrapping around me. Careful. Seraphim, huh? Seraphim. I slowly looked up at the person who was so close to me. Only one person dared to call me that. I hope I was wrong. To my horror, I met a pair of familiar amber orbs piercing me. I didn't have to think twice as I knew that I felt a familiar embrace that I thought I had already forgotten due to the passage of time. Desmond. I inhaled sharply as my vision was slowly getting better, but the hands that were penetrating my back had given me chills down my spine. But wait. I was inside Desmond's arms, right? How come I was in this position, right now? I felt like something had awakened inside me when the memories of the past came to flash in my head. I shivered and pushed him away from me because it frightened me right now as to what he was doing here right now. What are you doing here? I asked when my vision was not getting blurry after all. Right, all I needed was a little rest, then I should be fine to walk on my own and head straight home. I almost inhaled sharply seeing his cold demeanor right now. I immediately stepped back, preparing myself if he was going to do something that was against my will. Are you following me? I asked in a hostile tone when he didn't answer my question. Desmond drew out a lazy smile. I secretly gnashed my teeth knowing that smile well. It meant that he knew something that he didn't want to say, and the next thing he was going to say was, "Good question." Seraphim, I knew it. Even though years had already passed, being married to him for 5 years, I already knew his actions, his words, and what things he would think right at that moment. Sometimes I could read him. Sometimes I don't. I calmed my heart as I scrutinized him up and down. He was wearing an expensive outdoor outfit. I suddenly felt unconscious as to what I was wearing right now. So, are you really following me or not? I asked through gritted teeth. I had to remove my eyes from eyeing him up and down. Knowing him, he would tease me if I kept lingering my eyes on his lean body. Desmond shrugged. As I know I just happened to pass by in this street, I felt my cheeks heated up in embarrassment for suddenly accusing him. I glanced at my surroundings, seeing people passing by. This place was always vibrant at night as there were night markets and places to entertain you here. I must go now, I said shyly, and was about to leave when Desmond yanked my arm. What? I asked, creasing my forehead, even though I rejected our mate bond. It didn't escape from me the feeling of shivers crawling to my skin. His hand that was wrapped at the back of my elbow wasn't rough yet not gentle, but his touch was enough to make my heart go wild. Have you had your supper? Desmond asked. I am going to leave, I said, insisting. I must not let Sander wait for me and saw that I still wasn't at home. I wanted to say something but I didn't say anything. Let go of me, Desmond. Don't pry your life to me anymore, I said coldly before I roughly yanked my arm back. I didn't wait for him to say anything as I immediately walked past him. But I dared to turn my head when I heard a scoff from him. I almost gasped upon seeing Desmond, who was looking on my way having a bitter smile on his lips. Don't pry your life, he smirked. Of course, whatever you say, Seraphim. He shrugged. I just shook my head and decided to turn my back on him. But just before I could march away, he spoke again. I will never forget how you hurt me when I have done nothing wrong with you. That halted me. And I felt like my ears were being hit by stones upon hearing that. What did you say? Did he say that he had done nothing wrong? Desmond changed his expression into a frigid one. I have done nothing wrong from our marriage and even our mate bond, yet you dared to even reject me. How absurd you are, Seraphina. What? I scoffed, courtling. Absurd? You called my action absurd. I felt like something arose. I could definitely distinguish that emotion. That pure bitterness and sorrow I felt at that time were returning like waves from the sea. He removed his hat and placed it on his chest. Then what did you call running away from my pack? Isn't that absurd, Seraphina? His tone turned into a firm one. I could tell that he was gritting his teeth in annoyance. He was trying his best to control his emotions. I clenched my hands. This man, he was acting like he had done nothing wrong when in fact, he betrayed me. Bastard. I growled before I transformed into my wolf form and immediately ran away from this place. Serafina. I heard him calling my name, but I didn't even dare to turn my head anymore. I used my wolf speed and went in the other direction to hide my scent. On the street, I was almost close to where my flat was located. I couldn't take the risk of allowing Desmond to know where I was living. It was too risky that my son would get to know his father, even though I was really tired, with the help of the adrenaline rush. I made sure that I went to the river to swim there. I even retired there for a moment before I decided to go to the flat. Upon arriving there, I could feel the tears streaming down my face. I harshly wiped them down. I already moved on. I already moved on. I chanted, as my lips were shivering and sobbing. Mama? I froze when I heard Sander's half-awoke voice. I immediately took the robe and wrapped it around me before I went to the bedroom to see him rubbing his eyes. Sander, go back to sleep, I said softly and combed his hair as I sniffed. His droopy eyes looked at me as his forehead was creasing. Are you crying, Mama? He asked, trying his best to stay awake. I wiped the tears that were threatening to fall from my eyes as I shook my head. I just read a romance novel, I lied. He tilted his head and yawned. Is it a happy ending? He asked, curious. His question broke my heart. Number. It was not a happy ending in the first place, I said, as I heard my heart breaking into pieces.